financial structure. And I will tell you right here, right now, that if you have not stacked your XRP, your XLM, and your HBAR, you are about to get left in the fucking dust. Why do I know this? Because I'm tied to the financial systems, the actual private central banking systems going forward. This was our tasking. This was our job. We've been at this program for decades, not a couple of months, not a couple of years. It's been in the works for decades. Let that number sink in. Decades.
Good evening, Warriors. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite crypto news related channel. And today we are having what I would consider to be a celebration stream for the XRP community. We officially completed the second highest weekly close in the history of this price chart. And it goes to show just how far the XRP community has come here in the calendar year of 2025. Earlier this year, the highest ever weekly closure we had for XRP was $3.03. Now, we traded as high as $3.35, but there was no serious levels of trading anywhere above $3. Right now, after this previous breakout over the past 2 weeks or so, we have had nearly 2 weeks of trading volume for the XRP price chart above $3. And that is something that we should be celebrating, creating newer highs, creating higher lows. These are the important indicators that we're going to use to talk about alt season later on in this episode. And whether it's XRP, whether it's Hedera or Stellar, 3 of the projects that we've been focused on for the better half of a year now. Actually, sorry, what am I talking about? 3.5 years now. The reality is that this is our moment, and we're going to show you a couple of key catalysts that are happening for the crypto market that lead us to believe we are about to experience the alt season we have all been predicting. But if you enjoy this content, guys, show us some love, smash that like button. Trust me, we got an exciting episode prepared, and I want to give a massive shout out to Xavier ID with the 1099 and the celebration emojis, guys. Like I said, it is a celebration episode, and we're going to highlight a couple of these key indicators. Now, I'm going to show you something that Zach Rector put out just to kind of kick off today's episode. Zach is predicting that we could see a $4 to $5 XRP any day now and a $7 to $15 XRP by September 7th, 2025. Now, live chat, I'm coming at you for the question. One's in chat. If you think, I'm going to keep it lowball. Let's say, do we get to $5 before September? One's in chat for yes. Two's in chat for no. We're going to break down a couple of things that lead us to believe we may be getting there. Now, a price range I'm definitively keeping an eye on here, $4.50 for the XRP community. If we go on to create a new higher high, meaning we're trading well above this $3.65 mark that we created last week, from that point forward, I think $3.85 is a key indicator. $4 is a psychological level, but $4.50 is the first Fibonacci range, the 1.618. And I put out a video on Friday on the Good Evening Crypto channel, guys, highlighting some realistic price targets for the XRP community. Now, there's a lot of channels out there. They talk about 589, just like Angus Scrim with the 589 in chat. Cheers to you, my friend, and massive thank you for being here. But the truth of the matter is that for a long time, Dominic, we've been predicting about speculation and adoption and what companies are really using these assets. Now we're going to get clarity. And it starts, ironically, with the Clarity Act. Once the Clarity Act is signed by President Trump later this year, we are going to have a market structure bill inside the United States. And the truth of that is that it takes a lot of power away from the SEC because Bitcoin's not a security, XRP is not a security, and the majority of these altcoins are going to be considered commodities and not securities here in 2025. But live chat, I see a lot of ones. A lot of people think we're getting to $5 before the month of September. We're going to be breaking that down later on in the episode. Now, I am going to kick it over to Dom as well, but I wanted to show our listeners Hedera. Because Hedera, now I see we had a slight pullback, was above 30 cents earlier today. And not only that, we passed Chainlink to become the 14th largest digital asset. Now I'm saying I hold both these assets, but I think the Hedera community, the troopers, the people who have been buying, that's another community that has been celebrating a lot here in 2025. But chat, I'd love to hear, what is your 2025 peak price projection for XRP? Are we going to $5? Are we going to $10? Do you believe what Jake Claver has to say? Could we see a triple or quadruple digit XRP? The reality is that we're before all the catalysts that are going to lead us there. So that's a pretty exciting moment. And Dennis with the $2, big thank you to you, 7 Dennis. Appeal response rec by appeals, 815, then ETF. So yes, the SEC does need to officially drop the Ripple appeal. That has not taken place yet. Ripple has dropped their appeal. The SEC will eventually drop their cross appeal. And from that point forward, it is going to be new day and age here for the XRP community. But Dominic, first of all, there's some exciting momentum here. I think there's a lot of people out there who are disappointed by some of the price action, but the veteran crypto investors, they're excited about where we are today. Having been here since 2020, 2019, what's your reaction to how XRP has been performing? And overall, we've got the ETFs that still need to be approved. We got the Genius Act that was just passed. We got the Clarity Act, all of these different great things in the works. I think there's a lot of reason for people to be excited. How are you feeling? And thanks for being here.
Yeah, there's a lot in store in terms of catalysts that are on the frontier for XRP that could happen next month, next week, this year. So I think in terms of price action and the targets that we're looking for, it's going to be largely determinant on how quickly those things come to fruition. If clarity gets passed sooner than later, then that's going to be great for us. But I'll tell you, especially for the people like us who have been in this asset for a few years now, this feels really good, right? It feels good to be in a pullback currently and still be holding really strong above $3, right? And getting to another point of mine, I think it makes me more confident that we're going to see higher prices given that we're in a healthy pullback, right? Because it shows that there's more growth to come and that we're not in an overblown or overvalued market. So we still have a ton of runway left this cycle, and there's a lot of exciting things in store.
And the ETFs are a huge one we've been focused on, guys, because of some of the things that Zach Rector has outlined, Jake Claver, the market multiplier effect, new demand coming into these assets for the first time ever. And I think the best part about that is that once these spigots of liquidity are turned on, meaning once Grayscale is buying XRP, and once Fidelity is buying XRP, and Franklin Templeton is buying XRP, all of these different companies are going to be putting US dollars into the XRP blockchain from that point forward. Couldn't be more exciting for the entire community, guys. And I want to give a massive shout out to Stuart Taylor. Been listening for 2 years from Australia. Thanks for all you do. Awesome show. Massive thank you to you, Stuart. And hopefully you've enjoyed a lot of success. If you've been here 2 years, I'm sure you've made a whole lot of money based on how some of these projects have been performing. Now, people should keep an eye on Bitcoin as well. And I think a lot of people don't understand that Bitcoin is very, very important for the altcoin market. The higher Bitcoin goes, the more liquidity comes into these altcoins on the back end. But Ethereum, Bitcoin, even Solana, some of the digital assets that have typically performed very well first during a bull market, they are starting to do well right now. And I'm excited to start breaking that down, guys. As Ethereum broke out to $3,900 earlier today, we're most likely going to see a $4,000 Ethereum this week. That's huge. And we're going to talk about that, some of the altcoin indicators. I also want to give a big shout out to Eric Trump, who's been talking about Ethereum, guys. I'm not a huge believer in Ethereum. I don't own a lot of Ethereum, but the truth of the matter is that for the time being, Ethereum dominates the smart contract market and it dominates the stablecoin market. And so until that changes, Ethereum has a place to stay, not only in the USA, but definitely in the crypto market as well. Now, big thank you for the $4.99. Hudak Kuyo. I hope that's how you pronounce it. Does BlackRock get in after or before the Clarity Act? Thanks for always providing great insight as always. Massive thank you to you, my friend. I believe that BlackRock has bigger things at play. I believe that BlackRock is working on the tokenization of real-world assets, as well as ownership rights and a voting mechanism built on blockchain. So will they have an ETF filing? Most likely. I would almost say inevitably. I don't see why they wouldn't. They already have a Bitcoin product. They already have an Ethereum application. We're going to see them file. I believe it will happen after some of these other altcoins, though. It's looking like BlackRock is keeping their distance from XRP. But once again, it's like you can't say the word XRP. That's just how it goes in this market today. And there was a great quote that I saw earlier this week. I want to read it for you all, guys. It's from Jamie Dimon talking about the digital asset market. And I thought it just highlights where their mindset is. Like there's a certain portion of this of people in this market who are here to make money. They're here to use these digital assets. They're here to set their families up for success. And then we have the incumbents, the people who control the banks today that look at this digital asset class as a threat. So keep that in mind, guys. But this is what Jamie Dimon had to say. This is a quote circulating on Twitter. When I look at Ethereum, which generates multiple billions of dollars in fees every single year, compared to Algorand, XRP, Stellar, Cardano, and other projects, they haven't shown similar levels of activity. It's clear that Ethereum is the future. Now, my immediate thought, this is what I put out. I still haven't fully processed how the American SEC wouldn't want an American company in Ripple and the United States-based blockchain and XRP to succeed and dominate in the digital economy. Well, I think this quote right here is the answer. The exact people who were preventing the adoption of digital assets were the ones who are now adopting them today. The same people who told us they wouldn't buy Bitcoin, not only do they have ETFs, they're pitching it to all their clients. The same people who said that these altcoins didn't have real-world products, they're using stablecoins, which are built on top of some of our favorite blockchains, whether it be Solana or XRP or Ethereum. So the greatest contrarians have become our greatest allies, I guess, whether they like to admit it or not. And the same people who told us that we should stay away from these assets, these are the people who are now cheering on the digital asset class and talking about the evolution in finance that we're all taking a part of right now. But guys, we already have 6,000 live listeners here. We got over 600 watching on the Good Evening Crypto channel. If you guys enjoy this content, show us some love, smash that like button. And somebody said, ETH idiots, LOL. I don't think it's that they're idiots. I think that they have a financial incentive to bring the success of Ethereum forward, right? Same thing with Tether, same thing with Bitcoin. The people who control the market today, I think they have their hands on all this stuff. But Dominic, what's your reaction to kind of the fact that for a long time, people in this market wouldn't talk about XRP. We weren't taken seriously. We were pushed to the sidelines. Now, those same people are talking positively about these products and even discussing the real world use cases like Jamie Dimon is saying here, but he's highlighting Ethereum instead of Ripple. You're muted.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, overall, they never wanted to highlight the real world use case in general, right? It was always Bitcoin, 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 store value, technology, and that reserve asset, and that was their narrative. And now they're just venturing in. BlackRock, JPM, the big institutions are just venturing in, I think, to the use case portion of crypto, right? And where we think most of the value is. So, right, the next logical step for them is to go from, okay, we can talk about Bitcoin now, it's accepted. Now the next step is Ethereum because it's the second largest, and it's a little bit more well-known, right? But anyone who really knows this asset class knows that XRP has much, much better technology, and a better team, a better foundational team, I think, at the forefront. So that's what I think.
I also think they have the largest political pull now, and that's something that changed with the election of Donald Trump. A couple of years ago, not only was Ripple being, pursued by the United States government and annexed out of America with the lawsuits and the nobody being able to work with them here in the US. Now they're working not only with Trump, with Brad Garlinghouse and Stuart Alderati having dinner with Trump on several occasions. They even went to Mar-a-Lago on January 9th prior to his inauguration and had a conversation and shared a dinner. So that got a lot of speculation on Twitter, guys. But I do just want to ask the live chat. We are looking at a $3.25 XRP on this Sunday night. One's in chat if you are excited, if you are happy about the price action today. Two's in chat if you think these prices are too low. And I think this is going to tell us a lot about who's newer to this market and who has been here for quite a while. Somebody else who's been here for quite a while, Seven Dennis, big thank you for the $5 donation. The DTCC has 7 coins patented. Most likely are XRP and ETH because those two make use of hooks and side chains to exploit the TPS. I've read the patents. Now, I've also seen some of these patents, Seven Dennis, and I do think this stuff has not only been in the works for a very long time, they're starting to roll this out behind the scenes. There was a Jake Claver interview where they were talking about the use cases for Hedera and Ripple. And they were saying for the first time ever, banks all around the world were starting to tokenize banking deposits on these blockchains and send them cross-border in really small amounts because they're gearing up for mass adoption in 2026. And I've said it several times. ISO implementation began on July 14th, but starting in 2026 is when these banks are really going to shift to this new settlement system. And Dom, I've explained it like this. ISO messaging is a text message, but you need a financial layer that can work at that speed. There's only a couple of blockchains that can process transactions that quickly. Stellar, Algorand, HBAR, XRP, the ones that we focus on a lot. Those are the blockchains that are going to get adoption from the biggest companies on the planet because they can do what needs to be done in the cheapest, fastest, and most reliable way. So as this market evolves and it stops being about Bitcoin and it stops being about speculation and instead It's about how many companies are using these blockchains. I think that's when projects like Hedera, Ripple, Stellar go through this process of like separating themselves from these 4-year cycles. And people say it's happening now. There's a possibility it's happening now, but I believe that we're actually going into an alt season. These altcoins are going to become slightly overvalued for a short period of time. We'll have a pullback at the end of 2026. And then maybe from that point forward, the institutional liquidity is so ingrained in crypto. There's so many stable coins, tokenized assets, ETF products, all of this demand that has never been there before. We're going to see projects that are taking a part of that and absorbing that new demand separate themselves from Bitcoin in these 4-year cycles. That's kind of my speculation about how these next 2 years may play out, guys. Live chat, I'd love to hear ones if you think that will happen, twos if you disagree, and tell me why. But Dominic, what are some of your thoughts?
No, I think you're 100% right. And like I said before, if XRP right now was at, I know like maybe an unpopular opinion, but if XRP was at $8 right now, shooting right up from 2, I'd be more apt to say that we're at a top. But the fact that we pulled back a little bit, the spring is still there, ready to be released, I think. So it's really, really positive. And listen, there's ETFs coming. Tariff deals are being made daily. Interest rates are going to be cut. So there's so many tailwinds at play. So it's going to be fun to watch.
I do want to give an update on the hack giveaway as well, guys. Rob B said, Abs, when is the hack giveaway? Now, why are we giving away a hat? Well, first of all, I want to give a huge thank you because we passed 10,000 subscribers over the past week or so. And I believe we're all the way up to 14,000 subscribers on the Good Evening Crypto channel. Now, if you enjoy this content, head on over and subscribe to Good Evening Crypto on YouTube. We are going to be giving away this hat, I believe, after we go to Johnny's Lake House. So this week, Wednesday to Sunday, I'm at Johnny's Lake House. When I come back, we are raffling off the David Schwartz signed Merlin hat, absolutely free here on Good Evening Crypto. Now, the only thing is you must be a subscriber and you must show up to the live stream. So those two things must be done because we call the winner live on stream and we break it down right then and there. But Dom, I wanted to play this video as well. This is a brand new video that Brad Garlinghouse put out on Friday. And he's talking about Ripple's acquisition of Hidden Road and what this does for prime brokerage services. Now, long story short, Ripple now being able to use blockchain products for Hidden Road gives them an edge over every other prime brokerage that's not using blockchain. And I think Brad does a great job of highlighting that in this clip. But guys, we got 8,000 listeners here. If you're enjoying this content, smash that like button and subscribe. And I want to give a massive thank you to anybody who donated tonight. We know those donations are very much appreciated. But this is Brad Garlinghouse talking about Hidden Road. Here it is.
Let's be honest, who is better, me or David Schwartz? Hi, I'm Brad Garlinghouse. This is Crypto in 1 minute. A prime broker is really a one-stop shop that allows all kinds of different asset managers, whether these are well-known hedge funds, trading desks, market makers. It gives them a one-stop shop venue to trade and clear everything, digital assets, derivatives, swaps, all kinds of different assets. And these guys are doing trillions of dollars of trades. Historically, those have been really owned by the traditional commercial banks, the JP Morgans, the Goldman Sachs. Banks now don't do, well, new players like Hidden Road, a company Ripple bought recently, is new to this space, and they're growing very quickly by serving that same market, but also including digital assets as part of the mix. Having a well-capitalized, a super strong balance sheet player like Hidden Road is allowing more institutions to come into these asset classes against a well-capitalized counterparty, and that is prime brokers bringing people in crypto in 1 minute.
There you go, guys. I think Brad Garlinghouse does a great job explaining why these prime brokerage companies need DeFi and they need to start leveraging blockchain. Now, I want to make a real quick point before I kick it over to Dominic and we start talking about this, is that right now what we're seeing for XRP with this $3.25 price, we are seeing a lot of demand out of Japan and out of South Korea. So I'm going to show you the data later on in the episode, but I want to give a massive thank you to Frankie J with the $49.99. He said, helmet is heaven. Just shouting out my town on my favorite YouTube channel. Love you all at GMC and GEC and love the community. Well, shout out to Frankie J, an important member of the Good Evening Crypto community, and a massive thank you for the $50 donation. You've made my night, my friend. Now, K Capone says derivatives will be huge. Now, I'm going to fix the ads. Big thank you to Trevor. I don't know what's going on. There's like some glitch on the YouTube app where when the ads play, it's kicking people out. So I'm going to fix that once again. I'll get the ads shut off for you guys. Massive thank you to anybody who's sticking around with us through this stream. But Dominic, the biggest thing that I take away from the acquisition of Hidden Road is institutional players can tap into RLUSD and the XRP ledger without having to buy the token, right? They can use Hidden Road. Hidden Road can facilitate those transactions using the XRP ledger, and the RLUSD token is used in every single mechanism. So there isn't a product at Hidden Road that you can't use the RLUSD token for right now. They're doing $3 trillion worth of volume per year. I believe the math on that is somewhere around, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think 300 billion or 30 billion a day. It must be 30 billion a day, somewhere around there, guys. Feel free to correct me on that. But Dom, give me some of your thoughts. What's your reaction to what Brad had to say?
I mean, my reaction off the bat is, if you're an institution, would you rather work with Brad Garlinghouse or Vitalik Buterin? I mean, he is an excellent promoter, first of all. They run a really great shop. He knows how to promote the token. It's a great company. He knows how to run the company. He has all the connections. You cannot say the same thing about Vitalik. And I'm not an anti-ETH person at all, but that's just what I see from a completely objective bystander. So,
well, the truth is too that
Road is a good example of that, of them using XRP and having a partnership with Ripple. Like, that's a good example, and other institutions are going to see that and follow that.
And I want to give a massive shout out to the Shadow with the 1776, a staple of the Good Evening Crypto community. So a huge shout out to you. And I always love the 1776 donation, my friend. He said, till Valhalla. I wish I knew that joke now. Johnny Crypto may understand that reference. I'll have to phone a friend on this one, guys. But big thank you once again to the Shadow for being here. I also see Topher in chat. Shout out to Topher. Hope you're doing great, my friend. Now, another thing we're going to break down later on in this episode, guys, the possibility of XRP-backed stablecoins. The Flare team is speaking with the EZA app, and they are talking about the development of a stablecoin backed by XRP. This would open up the floodgates for DeFi and demand for the XRP token. But live chat, we got nearly 10,000 live listeners here. If you're enjoying this content, show us some love, smash that like button, and be sure to subscribe to the Good Evening Crypto channel. Now, you guys may have heard the update today as well. We got a massive update in regards to President Trump. Trump just announced the entire European Union is going to agree to 0 tariffs on U.S. goods. Meanwhile, the U.S. will still tax EU 15% on products. I wanted to give you guys just a brief update because I think this is very important. We'll explain why. Here's Donald Trump talking about the hundreds of billions of dollars that are going to be entering the United States. Here it is.
The tariff straight across for automobiles and everything else will be a straight across tariff of 15%. So we have a tariff of 15%. We have the opening up of all of the European countries, which I think I could say were essentially closed. I mean, you weren't exactly taking our autos, you weren't exactly taking our agriculture, and then you would have smaller things, but for the most part, it was closed. And now it's open. It's open for our companies to go in and do a good job with it. I think you'll like them. I think you'll like it. And we will, very importantly, they'll be investing a lot of money, but the military is a big number, but that's one number we're not determining. It's going to be whatever it is, but they're going to be purchasing hundreds of billions of dollars worth of military equipment. They're very importantly, they're going to purchase $750 billion worth of energy. So that's going to be great. And $600 billion worth of investments into the United States over and above what they have. So, and I think that basically concludes the deal. I mean, those are the main factors. I don't think there are too many other factors.
So hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars are going to be entering the United States. Also, we have the big, beautiful bill, 1.6 trillion in stimulus entering the U.S. Risk on assets are about to explode. And people, when you turn on CNBC, they'll tell you about Bitcoin. They'll focus on the S&P. They'll talk about Tesla. They'll talk about Amazon. But I think the real opportunities in this market for the smart, forward-thinking, innovative people, not only in America, but offshore, it's these altcoins that have already built real-world utility and real-world products with companies. Ripple, Stellar, HBAR. You don't have to do anything special, guys. Even a project like Chainlink, look at who these blockchains are working with. And I think there's really only a dozen, maybe half a dozen projects in this entire market that are blatantly working with the biggest companies on the planet. And that's why we're so redundant about the projects we believe will be successful during this bull market, guys. But live chat, I want to ask you a quick question. One's in chat if you believe we get an altcoin season in 2025. Two's in chat if you think someone said CNBC will talk about Litecoin. The Italian Jedi, that's the comment of the day. Everybody remembers the battle that I had with the Litecoin community just a week ago. And here's the thing. A lot of times I'm like, I wish you the best, big success. I feel that way about Litecoin investors. But when I look at the actual product and what they've built over there at Litecoin, don't get me started. If we're talking about fundamentals, stay away, my friends. Now, not a financial advisor, not financial advice, never is. But if you looked at my portfolio, you wouldn't find any Litecoin in there. Now, Dom, with the big, beautiful bill, we got the stimulus coming in. We've got all of these new trade agreements coming to fruition. I think that capital markets are set to expand. And it could be a reason that 2026, this quote unquote bear market, is much smaller than people anticipate, right? Maybe instead of altcoins pulling back 90% like we typically see, maybe they pull back 60%. And maybe instead of Bitcoin pulling back instead of 70% like we typically do, maybe it pulls back 45, 50%. And that could be more than enough to hit a lot of the ranges that are necessary to lead us back into a bull market. But it would also take away the volatility that we've been talking about. So a couple of different things happening here. What's your reaction to what Trump had to say and how these markets may explode at the end of the year? Mute button.
It's very simple. So more trade deals, more volume for Swift, right? More money being circulated across Europe and then eventually Asia and China. And the more money that's moving, the more trade, the more global activity. That's great for crypto all around. It's great for XRP, ETH, Bitcoin. And if XRP does take a portion of Swift, that's where we see the crazy 3-digit, 4-digit potential numbers. So it's really exciting.
And the biggest thing that I didn't include there, guys, a reduction in rates happening inside the United States. I showed you a video last week where Donald Trump said, after speaking to Jerome, he said the country's doing extremely well, and I believe he's going to reduce rates here. We're going to play this video just once again, just to remind people the uncomfortable energy that was in the air while Donald Trump and Jerome Powell were sitting here answering questions from the press. We're going to listen to a minute here and talk about it. Here it is.
Taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2. This came from us.
Yes. I don't know who does that.
Are you including the Martin renovation? You just added our entire capital. Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
So it's part of the overall work.
But it's
So,
not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use, but no, we don't. Expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not under too much danger. So, any questions?
Mr. President, as a real estate developer, what would you do with a project manager who would be over budget?
There you have it, guys. I mean, not only was it extremely uncomfortable, but I think Jerome Powell is going to do the inevitable. His term is up only 8 months from where we are today. I believe we get a reduction in rates towards the end of the year. And there's a lot of speculation behind the scenes that after this meeting, Jerome Powell actually has changed his tone, and we may see a reduction in rates sometime around September. So if that occurs, that could be exactly what's necessary for some of these assets to get that bullish catalyst we need. And imagine if XRP is trading at about $4 or $5 and then they reduce rates. That's the perfect catalyst to get us up to that $6, $7, $8 euphoric moment here in 2025. Live chat, I'd love to hear. One's in chat if you believe they reduce rates. Two's in chat if you think it doesn't happen. Dom, I think they shared the stats. The European Union typically cuts rates first. They've reduced rates 8 times since the United States has last reduced them. Trump is calling for three interest points of a reduction, 300 basis points. If we get 25, I think that's going to signal to the world we're in an era of quantitative easing, not tightening anymore. What are some of your thoughts? And then we'll get into our next conversation.
We're not going to get 300 off the bat. I think that's safe to say, but we have to start going in the right direction. And right now, we're not. My takeaway from this is like just watching that video. Jerome Powell is a turd ball, and I think that's the first time he's put on a hard hat in his life. It's pretty clear that guy's never put a hard hat on and worked in a tough environment. So no, it's time for him to lower rates, and it's been time for a while. So,
and Colby commented, Scott Bessett already said they're going to replace Powell this year. Now, I don't think they'll replace Powell because the optics of it, if they just wait out the 8 months, Powell's looking like he's going to reduce rates anyways. And in 8 months, no questions asked, Donald Trump is going to be able to put somebody in place to lower these rates. And now they can't come out and say that, but that is what will happen. Now, somebody's saying these ads are still crashing the stream. We're going to get that fixed, guys. I apologize. So give me a moment here and I will get that fixed in the background. What I wanted to show you, and this will be a great topic for our next conversation, I wanted to show you guys a short video of Jim Cramer calling XRP a con coin at 38 cents. Now, remember this. At the peak of the market, these exact people are the ones who will be selling you the top. So while Jim Cramer was scaring you away from XRP at 38 cents, you would have 8.5 extra money today. That's unbelievable. You don't get that opportunity very often. He was telling you stay away from these projects. Watch, because as this market evolves and as we get clarity and these ETFs are passed, Jim Cramer's the guy who's going to be saying, you know, XRP's $12 right now. I think we're going to 25. And at that very moment, the market will peak and we will head into a bear market, according to my calculations. We do have 11,200 live listeners here, guys. If you're enjoying this content, show us some love, smash that like button, and be sure to head on over and subscribe to the brand new Good Evening Crypto channel. Now, somebody said, you can't call it brand new forever. The channel's 4 months old. I said at the 6-month mark, we're not calling it brand new anymore. But I'm going to get these ads fixed, guys, and I'm going to let this Jim Cramer video play. Here it is.
We put up XRP and Solana and Dogecoin. Those are all, I believe, cons. I mean, if we think that the XRP slash USD coin is something that we should be following, well, I mean, we should be following we should put up like Rent a Runway and Stitch Fix up there. I mean, honestly, I just find it's just a random group of things that we put up, and that I question that because I'm busy trying to find how to make money for people. And I don't want to try to figure out how to lose money for people.
So since Jim Cramer made that statement, XRP went from 38 cents to $3.65 just 10 days ago. And even today, we are trading at $3.25. And I want to give a massive thank you to Topher. Shout out to my man, Topher. He said, Earth is Google, air is Apple, fire is Amazon, and water is Ripple. That's a David Schwartz quote. The writing is on the wall. Who will run the world? Shout out to Topher for the $4.99. Greatly appreciated, my friend. And one thing that we agree on, XRP is going to run the world. I mean, it really is that obvious to me when it comes to these financial settlement systems. But Dom, doesn't this just expose the game for the mainstream media? The same people who will scare you away from these projects at low prices, they'll sell you these projects at all-time high.
Well, yeah, and that's Cramer with every stock pick that he makes, right? He steers people away from winners and he pushes people into losers. So it's no different with XRP. I think you guys talk about it a lot, but like there's an inverse index, Cramer index, that actually performs pretty well, right? So no surprise here. Par for the course.
As you guys can tell, par for the course on the Cramer index. The Cramer index never fails. Now, I do believe I have the ad situation fixed. I just want to point that out, guys. So let me know if that issue persists, and I'll get it fixed once again. But it should not be happening anymore. I turned off the automatic ads. Now, once again, a lot of interesting stuff that we're breaking down, but there's one other thing that our listeners should be aware of. A lot of people don't have a lot of Ethereum in our community. All I hear is if and when, right? This is what this person has to say. Well, there's no if and when anymore. We're trading at $3.25 for the XRP price chart. Less than 12 months ago, Dominic, this was a 40-cent project. 40 cents. So we've nearly done a 10x, even on this 16% pullback that we've had here. And so when people are saying all I hear is if and when, it just goes to show who's newer to the community versus who's been here for a long enough time to experience those long-term 3.5 years trading sideways kind of days. So shout out to the people who have been here for years with us. Ivan Hernandez, he's one of them. He said, ETH is my biggest bag. Shout out to you. Jim Kramer, Crypto AI says, Kramer gets a bonus check when he speaks against crypto. Probably. That's what I'll say about that, guys. Stuart commented, people don't want to actually own Bitcoin, but no way I buy and can think people realize they can't afford XRP. This is what the Easy A app guys told us. And Dominic, you can probably relate to this working in the financial world. A lot of people don't even understand that you can buy a fraction of a digital asset. Believe it or not, the majority of people coming into this market think it's like stocks. They look at Bitcoin and they go, I don't have $120,000. And even if I understand that I can buy a fraction, well, $10,000, which is a ton for the average American, that gets you 0.075 of a Bitcoin, I believe. I think that's the math on that, maybe 0.08. So you can get $10,000. That'll get you 0.08 Bitcoin. That'll get you 3.1 Ethereum, or you can buy yourself 3,300 XRP. So I think a lot of people who are newer and come into this market, even though that's probably not the correct way, that's not how I would recommend looking at it. I think there's a ton of people who are going to look at the market that way and say, you know what? I've got 10 grand, I've got 5 grand, I've got $1,000. If I take $1,000 and put it into Bitcoin, I own 0.0015 Bitcoin. If I do that with Ethereum, I own a third. I own 0.33 of an Ethereum. If I do that with XRP, I can now have 300 tokens. So I think a lot of people are talking about the game of exposure. Are you mathing in your head, Abs? Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm doing, says the Reckless Fool in chat. But Dom, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. Again, it's for everyone's personal scenario. That's how you have to do it. But I mean, you can't buy half a stock, right? So it has the stock speed from that point of view. But yeah, like I know like how I do it is I don't even have, like I just have my crypto portfolio and I keep like 75, 85% XRP and a little bit of HBAR and Bitcoin. And I just try to maintain those percentages, right? So I'm not as worried about like I'm putting 1,000 here or 1,000 there. Like I contribute and just let the numbers stack and add up. So you know, and it's great if you're a beginner, like you can start with very small amounts, and you know, that's how you got to do it, right? That's how you got to look at it.
Somebody said, if you're just getting into this market, I'll read the comment for you guys because I think this is great for newer investors. He said, I got in super late around $3 to buy. How much should I look to hold? Now, if you're in and you just got in about $3 XRP, you shouldn't play the game of how cheap can I buy the asset. You should play the game of accumulation, right? Accumulate 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or 500, whatever your goal is. Set an objective goal for how many tokens you would like to accumulate. Focus on getting that number and reach there. That's what I would say. Get as much as you can, dollar cost average in, and take a long-term mindset. Understand, if you're going to make real money in this asset class, you got to hold these assets for like 5 to 7 years. If you try to do anything shorter than 5 to 7 years, you're most likely going to get crushed in this market. Dom, I feel like that's my word of advice. What would you say there?
Yeah, it's long-term. Like I was just telling Abs earlier today, like I don't care how the market is pricing this coin, right? It could be pricing it at 6, at 3, at 1, like it's all supply and demand. But the real investors know what they own and know the value of the coin, regardless of the short-term supply demand shocks that are pricing it. So you have to think long-term. You shouldn't, I mean, unless you want to trade and make some money, which you can do, right? But if you're coming into this market and you don't want to get wiped out, you have to believe in it long-term, because otherwise we do have these volatile days that the price drops, right? And we all know it. And if you're not comfortable with that, then you're going to sell low and, you know, you're going to lose. But I'll say too, like the way, like you mentioned that for people starting out, like for XRP, if you lived in New York City, which I don't, but if you lived in New York City last year, you couldn't buy the token, right? They took it off Coinbase. You had to like know to use certain exchanges like Uphold. And it's like, it hasn't even been opened up yet. So know what you own and don't worry about the short-term price. Those are my recommendations.
And when you think about where we could be 4 or 5 years from now, the sky's the limit. I mean, Brad Garlinghouse is predicting that XRP could absorb 14% of Swift's total transaction volume by that time. That's $700 billion of daily volume just from that 14%. Then you add the ETFs, you add the hidden road, you add the stable coins, you add the smart contracts, you add people like us buying this asset just to hold it for 10 years and make a whole lot of money. You're going to have companies doing the exact same thing.
Companies in the S&P right now are buying crypto just to hold on their balance sheets.
And we're only going to see more of that. I really believe it, guys. I think it's so obvious. Somebody said, paper hands Portnoy. Don't be Dave Portnoy, guys. Have an exit plan, or at least
That was a good
have
one.
a profit plan. Something that we talked about, Dominic, is that, so Topher, shout out to you. Why 14% for Brad Garlinghouse? Very interesting, right? Very specific number. Maybe he's putting something out into the universe there. But one of the things that I think people should be aware of, Dominic, you remember this back in 2021, when these prices went up, the entire community was waiting for $5, $10, $15, and we only got to $1.90. And I feel like this time around, there's a large portion of the community who's waiting for really high price targets, maybe $26, $35, $50 this cycle. But if we only go to 12 and you take no profit, you're going to have to go through that whole bear market once again and go on that accumulation journey. And so I think there's going to be a difference for particular investors. The ones who take profit in this market, just 1%, 2%, 5% on the way up, you're hedging yourself for the bear market to buy these assets at lower prices. And the best place to do that, guys, is Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto. Click on the link below this video to try it. 30 days completely free. But you've been through that journey yourself, Dominic, where the price went way up. You didn't take enough profit, and you had to wait 3.5 years to get another opportunity. That's why we talk about taking a little bit of profit during these bull markets. What would you say in regard to that?
Yeah, I think we're in different times. What I do is typically when we have these crazy days, I'll sell 5% or lower, and usually just hold it on the side. And then 9 times out of 10, we'll go lower and I'll buy in and just make a little bit of money, right? But if we keep going, great. But yeah, I mean, I think we're in different times. Like the first time around when XRP went up and then crashed, it's like it didn't have the fundamentals and the foundation that it does today. So like at that point, it was like, oh, like man, like maybe we missed out. Like damn. But this time around with the adoption that's in play, like it could drop, and you could say like, oh shoot, I have to wait another 4 years. At that point, like, yeah, like it kind of sucks, but you're going to make money in the long term. 5-10 years down the road, if you miss it, you could have played, you could have picked the top, but that's so hard to do. So just think long term, and like, I don't know. Like I said, I think this asset is super valuable, and don't worry about how the market's pricing it. So hold long term and you'll be good to go.
Guys, it really is about ROI. I just want to give a huge thank you. We just passed 450 likes on the live stream. If you guys are enjoying this content, show us some love, smash that like button, and be sure to subscribe to the brand new Good Evening Crypto channel. And like I said, I'm going to call it brand new for the first 6 months here. But there's another thing. This market, it's about return on investment, right? It's not about Bitcoin leading the market, driving momentum, driving headlines. When you turn on CNBC, somebody said, please, pretty please, Abs, can you tell me where to buy the XRP hat? LOL. Uphold gave me this hat, or gave everybody this hat, I guess, at XRP Las Vegas. So that is where I got this XRP hat, guys. But it's turned into one of my favorites. I went from the Merlin hat to this one. I'm sure I'll shift back to the Merlin hat eventually. As Johnny Krypto says, don't be a rubberneck, right? Don't be like us in 2021 who watched this price go from 17 cents to $1.90 in 4 months, and then back down to 30 cents 6 months later. So keep that in mind. We went from 17 cents to $1.90 in 4 months. 6 months after that, we're trading at 33 cents. So I want people to keep that in mind. We are talking from experience, not just, opinions or whatever on this show. Big shout out to Dusty. He said, love the late night show. We appreciate you, my friend. I'm happy to do this show with you guys. And during these exciting times, I think it's realistic. I want people to be excited. I want people to be optimistic, but I want people's opinions to be based in reality. take a little bit of profit, create a plan for yourself, and most importantly, enjoy the fact that we've already been proven correct in some way, shape, or form, right? It's not 50 cent XRP. It's not stable coin trading range anymore. Remember when Raoul Paul used to say, you're in a cult, you're going to lose all your money? He was obviously proven incorrect. And I like this comment here from Jeffrey Goodwin. I like both good morning and good evening crypto. Great community. Well, shout out to you, Jeffrey, for being a part of our community. And thank you for being here, guys. We got 13,700 live listeners. If you enjoy the content, be sure to smash that like button. It does greatly help out the Good Evening Crypto channel. Now, a couple of things we're going to address before the end of today's episode. The White House is releasing their first ever digital asset report, which will include recommendations for a strategic stockpile of crypto assets. And you heard this correctly, not just Bitcoin. We're talking about all, or at least several digital assets here. Here it is.
Crypto policy report on Wednesday. According to the administration's crypto task force, that report will be a set of recommendations around potential regulation ahead, including the feasibility of a strategic national stockpile of crypto.
There you have it, a strategic national stockpile for crypto. That was reported on CNBC. And Dominic, you remember a few months ago when Donald Trump nearly broke the internet for that one day when he tweeted about a strategic crypto reserve, and he started the tweet with XRP followed by Solana and Cardano. So I do believe, I stand by this opinion. If they create a strategic reserve that extends beyond Bitcoin, it will include XRP. That will be one of the assets that they include. If they extend beyond Bitcoin, what do you think?
Well, is Donald Trump deciding it, right? Because if Trump has a say in it, like how many times has Brad met with Trump? Garlinghouse, right? So it's hard to say. I'll say it again. Like, what did Vitalik meet with Trump? Like, did Vitalik meet with Jamie Dimon and Larry Fink? I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
He definitely met with Larry Fink, right? Because Larry Fink's had a BlackRock. So I'm sure Donald Trump is very close with Larry Fink when you think about the geopolitical situation and some of the public events that we've seen about where these markets are going. Everything is going to be digital. Larry Fink told us, someone said, are you new abs? When you play videos, they are always super quiet. Got to work on the streaming skills. Guys, I wish I was new. I've been doing this streaming. I've streamed. I've done a live stream 5 days a week, every single day, Monday through Friday. And the community can vouch for this. I basically never miss an episode since 2022, February 22nd, 2022. So no, I cannot call myself a rookie. I'm just a veteran out here making mistakes, guys. I guess it happens to the best of us. But Dom, also another important part of this thing, there's still a large portion of the VC crowd that won't say Ripple and XRP. Larry Fink, JP Morgan, all the biggest companies, they're not talking about these technologies publicly yet. And if they do, all they focus on is Ethereum, right? You're never going to hear them talk about XRP, even in regards to stablecoins. So when you think, when that change inevitably occurs, I believe it will be at the peak of this bull market. So I think that we're going to see that shift right when all of these assets are reaching all-time high prices. What are some of your thoughts about that? Because you've been here for a long time. You remember how these bull markets go. Peak euphoria, peak prices. Do you think it'll be the same thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think the VC world's actually pretty early on it. I think like Andreessen Horowitz has a crypto fund. Kleiner Perkins, like the Bain has one, private equity group. So these larger institutions are banking on blockchain, and they like identified as blockchain, not Bitcoin. Or so it's like the underlying technology, companies using the technology. It's not like we're buying Bitcoin and holding it. So what I'm trying to say is that the major institutions that are in play in the Bitcoin or in the crypto space, they're making the bet that companies are going to use cryptocurrencies, blockchains as a service to help increase efficiencies in their own business, right? So I think like if you think of XRP as a SaaS company, right, like a software as a service provider, right? Ripple's providing a service. It adds an extra layer of value, right? And like you can pick up the phone and call Ripple. You can work with them. It's like there's a face actually associated with the platform. which is super cool.
And I've said that before, Dom, where it's like, when you think about the leaders in digital assets, who is it? It's Brad Garlinghouse. It's Michael Saylor for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's Vitalik Buterin for Ethereum. You've got Charles Hoskinson for Cardano. You've got the Chainlink co-founder, Sergio. I'm forgetting his last name. It begins with an N, but there's really only like 7 or 8 of these guys.
And Scott Bessett for the government.
Yeah, literally Scott Bessett for the government.
And the new SEC.
And then Paul Atkins, who's
Right.
but I'm talking about people who are CEOs or co-founders of crypto companies. I mean, how many of them can you name? 5? And I think that speaks volumes because it's Cardano, it's Chainlink, it's XRP, it's Ethereum, and it's Bitcoin. Those 5, and I'm not talking about the best blockchains, but I'm saying those 5 projects are closest to the United States government. That is very, very clear. Even Solana, guys. Solana is like this VC thing that Dominic was describing. There's a lot of people buying Solana because they think number is going to go up. Very simple. But my belief is Solana's most exciting bull market price action happened in 2023, right? And someone said, Clinton, shout out to you. He said, Ab's favorite is Charles. Shout out to Charles Hoskinson. He did a podcast with Sean Ryan, and it was a 5-hour podcast. We got to get him on Good Morning Crypto for at least an hour. If he can do 5 hours, he can do 40 minutes here on Good Morning Crypto. So that's something we should speak into existence here, guys. We do have 14,600 live listeners. If you're enjoying this content, show us some love, smash that like button, and head on over to YouTube if you're watching on Twitter to subscribe to the new Good Evening Crypto channel. We're going to get live streams just like this every single day, either a 5:30 p.m. update or live streams like this later at night. Now, I wanted to respond to this because this got 1 million views over the weekend. And Fred Krueger's a longtime Bitcoin advocate. He said not one actual human is using XRP. Not one. That's what Fred Krueger said. Well, I chat GPT'd this and I go, XRP does $3.1 to $8.2 billion worth of daily volume every single day. Now, I know there's a lot of AI. I know there's a lot of bots out there. I don't think there's $8.2 billion worth of bots transacting XRP. So when it comes to the Bitcoin advocates being upset about the success of some of these altcoins, they're just going to have to deal with it. That's just the truth of the matter. Altcoins are here to stay. Bitcoin's here to stay. And guys like Fred Krueger, and when he put this out, Dominic, think about it. If he had put this exact tweet out last summer, people would have had reason to be frustrated. They could have said, oh, he's instigating. XRP, 625% gain so far. Bitcoin, 77% gain since the election of Donald Trump. That is 6.5 times the value since November 5th. So we're letting money talk. We don't need to say any words. But what are some of your thoughts about the Bitcoin investors, once again, being upset about
this guy's a Bitcoin investor?
Yeah, Bitcoin only.
Right? Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's what they all say. Like, it's Bitcoin, and then everything else is like a loser coin.
Yeah.
I mean, look, like, if you're talking about coins, like, I get it, right? Like, if you're talking about coins like Litecoin and other shit coins that are like after 25 or 50 in market cap, like, you're not talking about those core groups that we speak of. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, who cares about that stuff? There's maybe a diamond in the rough, but it's not as likely today as it was like a few years ago. But yeah, I mean, look, it's jealousy. Like, they didn't have a run, like, they didn't have a run up like XRP did, so they feel crappy about it.
And think about this too. The Solana community is one that was dominating in comparison to XRP just 12 months ago. They had that run up from $20 to $220. Everybody was saying Solana's the future. It's smart contracts. It's meme coins. It's community based. Where are we 12 months later? People have shifted away from those topics and into the ones that we're discussing, where it's about real world things, ETFs, updates, things of that nature. We're going to have a very exciting show tomorrow. And I broke something down in the video on Friday that Dominic will also appreciate. I showed you the graph of Chris Larson, Ripple's co-founder, when he was selling XRP, because everybody was like, Chris Larson selling the top. He knew the top was in, all of these different things. Well, I went and did a little bit of research, and not only did Chris Larson not catch the top, he's never caught the top. In 2018, when the price went from a fraction of a penny to $4, Chris Larson took no profit. But when XRP pulled back to $1.25, that's when he started selling. So we're seeing something similar where He hasn't taken profit since 2019. XRP starts getting daily closures above $3. He's got, I think, 2.9 billion units, and he sells a couple hundred million. I don't think anything's wrong with that. He's honestly implementing the same strategy that we talk about every day, which is taking a little bit of profit when your portfolio just did a 10, 12, 15x. So any quick thoughts there about Ripple's co-founder selling tokens at $3 that he hadn't sold in 10 years? He's got 2.9 billion.
He has to be the biggest owner, right? Besides like maybe Ripple.
Guys, I think Garlinghouse.
Imagine if you had 2.9 billion tokens.
Let's go to ChatGPT.
You have to sell. I mean, come on.
We're going to ChatGPT right now. Hold on. How much XRP does Brad Garlinghouse own? Ready? Does Brad Garlinghouse own? And I think our listeners will find this valuable because you just heard it. Chris Larson has 2.9 billion. I think Brad has more. If I remember correctly, Brad has several billion XRP. Let's check.
If he does, that's great because it's good alignment with us, right?
Right. And Ripple has a mutual alignment with the community, right? They own 40 billion of these tokens. Now, the one thing about Gronk is it does take a little bit, but let's see. Can we get a result here, guys?
Yeah. I mean, look, like that's a great thing. Like if Brad Garlinghouse owns that many, because he's going to push forward as much as we are. So again, it's just like the better alignment and like
Arthur Brito has more. That's what Seven Dennis had to say. Johnny Krypto, 18 billion XRP. That's a good one, guys. He just bought a new lake house as well. 37 billion in Ripple's escrow today. I think I saw the circulating supply for XRP is at 64 billion tokens now. And back during the 2021 bull market, when we only went to $2, there was only 44 billion tokens in circulation from what I remember. So pretty interesting. Someone said, no, Brad has less than Chris. I want to check who has the most. Let's go to Gronk 3 because Gronk 4, it's too fast. I mean, it's too slow. Sorry. Who owns the most XRP? Let's see who it is, guys. It's Arthur Brito, from my understanding. It could be, let's check it out here. Garlinghouse owns 6.3% stake in Ripple Labs, along with potentially nearly 10 billion at the time. I'm just getting through this, guys. Ripple's Chris Larson held around 5 billion in XRP. Jesus. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Some of these numbers, guys. I mean, think about it. If Garlinghouse even had 100 million XRP, his net worth in the last 12 months has went from $50 million to $320 million in net worth.
Yeah.
Even if it's just his XRP token, we're talking from 50 million to 320 in less than a year.
You're doing the mental math today.
It's like a lottery win. Guys, Brad Garlinghouse won the lottery just by holding XRP. And I think there's a lot of people in the XRP community who feel the exact same way. Now, Trevor commented, awesome show as always, Abs and Dom. Catch you all on Good Morning Crypto tomorrow. We love you guys. We appreciate you all. I am excited for the Good Morning Crypto episode tomorrow. We got over 900 live listeners here watching, over 15,000 on all platforms. If you're enjoying this content, smash that like button and be sure, head on over to the Good Evening Crypto channel. We're going to get an update every single day from myself, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, we're going to wrap it up for today. I want to give a huge thank you to anybody who joined us tonight. I'm just going to read the donations. Massive thank you to Xavier. Massive thank you to Angus Scrim. Shout out to Seven Dennis, Stuart Taylor. Can't pronounce that. Who to something. Seven Dennis again. Frankie J. And a huge thank you to The Shadow with the 1776. And of course, Topher in chat. Big shout out to Topher, my friend. But we love you guys. We appreciate you all. Here's how I'll end it. Remain patient. Stay positive. We have an optimistic yet realistic perception of this market. And I believe that you don't need crazy high price targets to understand that lots of these altcoins, XRP, Cardano, HBAR, they're gearing up for their next leg up. Bitcoin's trading sideways, new all-time high. Solana's approaching its all-time high. Ethereum's almost at $4,000. HBAR is near 30 cents. This market is about to explode and expand in the same way that we've been predicting. And I couldn't be more excited to celebrate it with each and every single one of you. So if you guys enjoyed this content, smash that like button. It's like Stuart Taylor says, you may even get tired of winning. And I want to give a huge thank you to Dominic for joining us tonight. Big shout out, hashtag Dom in chat, him giving us the time and joining us for today's episode. But we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you all in the next one.